It's Alex from Remote Work Life and the Remote Work Life podcast. I hope you're doing well wherever you may be in the world. Today I have a great guest with me today. I have Sondre Rausch, who is the CEO of Safety Wing. And now Safety Wing it's a really important business, especially in these times of uncertainty that we are facing in the world. Safety Wing essentially provides travel and medical insurance for remote teams and for nomads. And it's essentially, Safety Wing is on a mission to build a social safety net on a global basis. But I think, as I said before, the times that we're in now, I thought it important for me to have this conversation with Sondre because of what we're going through at the moment. So Sondre, I wanted to say thank you so much for your time and for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Alex. It's a pleasure to be here.
And Sondre, as always, I like to find out, because Sondre's, not only does he run Safety Wing, he has a lot of experience when it comes to not just his individual remote work career, but also his team. He's growing his team, guiding his team, leading his team, and working remotely. So I thought there's two benefits to having Sondre on the call today. But first and foremost, I want to know, Sondre, a bit more about you. How did you come to be CEO of Safety Wing?
Well, that is interesting. So I am from Norway, and very early on I was interested in starting things. So as a teenager, I had this little web hosting company I tried to set up in my room and offered customer service on my newly acquired mobile phone. So I've always been attracted to entrepreneurship and technology and lived sort of, I was like the first generation that grew up on the internet a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I started that together with a Dutch and a Romanian friends, and we collaborated on something called IRC, which is like Slack, but back then kind of looked the same. And so that's the sort of genesis and for my interest. And then I had a bit of a detour, studied economics, worked as a policy advisor. And then I thought that I had to return to my roots. And then I started another company. And it's the fastest way to become CEO is to start your own company. And then that's successful. That's how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I started a previous company. And then I learned there, I kind of stumbled upon the problem of Safety Wing, which is, of course, that was a remote freelancer platform. We wanted to provide benefits for people on that platform. Nobody offered it. And then kind of realized that gap. So I had already kind of known from my teenage years, I've discovered this thing that there is this internet economy growing up, and that has many problems and opportunities. But essentially the infrastructure, what I discovered there was that the infrastructure that supports the global labor market doesn't exist. Instead, you have the sort of infrastructure that is nationally based. So that's why we couldn't buy health insurance for all the freelancers on our platforms, because that was spread out all over the world. So then that was kind of the problem discovery moment. And then eventually left that company to found Safety Wing because we found it so important that somebody had to do it and nobody was doing it. We felt it was a bit overdue, actually. And then we launched that, and then it's been a great journey till today.
And for you, because did you always think to yourself then, given that you've started different companies, did you think to yourself while you're studying your economics degree that you would one day have your own business, or did you have designs on a different path?
Yeah. No, I thought I would start my own tech startup. So I did have that quite narrowly. So I was curious about policy work, and I'm interested in economics. I'm generally interested in systems. I'm interested in that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I still am, for sure. But no, I do feel like I am at heart an entrepreneur. So even when I've had jobs, I still am like a little entrepreneur on the job. Like in a sense, like I'm kind of which I believe has pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
If you're my boss,
Yes, I know what you
but
mean.
yeah, I like to do my own things. I think I have good ideas, and I like to, and I have many ideas, and I like to do them. So if I were put in a situation where I was just being told what to do in detail, I couldn't be happy. And that's definitely a big, like, I don't think I have any choice. I probably have to be a founder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's that side of things, but there's also the remote work aspect of things, because you've worked remote for quite a while, haven't you? It's something that's been
Yeah.
part of you for quite some time. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. I mean, both Safety Wing and my previous company, Superside, were fully was and is fully remote companies. So I have, in a way, built and scaled two remote companies, and of course myself worked remotely in that period. So so I'm fully convinced, but I've been fully convinced about that for a long time, that makes sense. That it's the best way to build a company today, and it's and the only period we're in is just that period where people are gradually discovering that. I love building remote companies, and I think the benefits are huge for my own personal life and the people who work there. The greatest benefit of having a remote job is that you are flexible to move, whether that is because you want to be live a more nomadic lifestyle where you move often, or maybe it's because you're going to move to the mountains, the beach, or to move close to family. That freedom is immense. And when you couple that with, very often, that when you live like that, you have a lower cost of living, as certainly as opposed to working in London or San Francisco. You get a huge economic benefit, as well as personal preferences being met to a very large degree. So, and for me personally, that is something that has just been a requirement. And there are, of course, challenges to building a remote company, but we've solved them mostly.
And you're Norwegian, aren't you, as well? And you moved from Norway to America. Was that in pursuit of your dreams and ambitions to become an entrepreneur, or was it again just because? Yeah. Well, what was that reason?
Yeah. No, it was. So, like, when I was a teenager, I discovered Silicon Valley early on. So I had already, sort of as a teenager, this idea that I wanted to move to Silicon Valley, actually. And I also paid close attention to Y Combinator when that started out, and their sort of social network, Hacker News. But so no, I always kind of picked up on, like, oh, there's something going on over there. That seems to be the place to be, and but the way practically I moved, but I was planning to get there at some point. That was kind of like the way I knew growing up, is I knew I was going to start a tech startup, and I knew that I wanted to move here. But the way it happened was that we actually applied to Y Combinator for my previous company, Superside, and when we got in, we had to move. That was how I moved.
Okay, and you obviously made a big success of it, and you've not just the entrepreneur side of things, but the business side of things as well. You've got a great brand. You've established a great team. You've figured out the so-called secrets in terms of working remotely. So you've made you've been there and done it. You've walked the talk. All those kinds of things. But along the way, I'm guessing there must have been challenges that you've had to face and overcome. What were the main challenges for you in that period?
Yeah, I think my greatest challenge in working remotely and also doing a startup remotely. So I should say, when I first started out, like when I first quit my job, that was a sort of scary moment, because I had a job then. I was policy advisor at the government of Norway.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to kind of kick myself in the butt to start a company, but it's of course scary. And I had like a great job, such a cushy job, because I was policy advisor in this new unit. I didn't really have a boss. I worked in these extremely meaningful, exciting projects. It was really excellent. But I kind of I knew I had to do what I had to do, and so I made this decision to do it. And I started a company part-time, and I had already kind of worked out the logic that if I just got some freelancer income and I moved to a local, like I was thinking Berlin at the time, which was even cheaper than it is now. Like you could live on like 500 euros a month in Berlin.
Wow.
At the time. Now it's a little
Probably
bit more,
different.
but yeah. So the plan was I started to build like freelancer income on the part-time, and also to build a company in the part-time, which was became Superside. And I started saving some money and to see if I can cut my costs, and then I would move to a low-cost location, which would extend my runway. And the idea was that I could work like 1 day a week freelancing, enough and earn enough to kind of pay my living, so that I could work on the company the rest of the time. And I still think that plan was like incredible. I would advise anyone else to do the same. Like I totally nailed that. Like that plan was definitely the right plan. I think that's doable by almost anyone, actually, what I did there. As in to do those different steps, like to try to start part-time building a freelancer income, to make a plan to a local location, to save some money, etc. Like it's doable by really anyone. So, by the way, building a freelancing is very difficult. You spend a lot of like figuring out what you want to do. I ended up doing writing for economics magazines. I just did a little bit of it.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah, it was great. It was really random how you get the first customer. But the point is, when you do a good job with one customer, that's kind of all you need, which it ended up being. Anyway, I didn't do that for very long, because just as I quit my job, and in the intervening months, the company I started, Superside, basically we started working. And it was just like a month after quitting my job that we got accepted to Y Combinator. And then at that point, it's like you're strapped into the roller coaster, and so all this
the roller coaster. I like it.
Yeah, and all the sort of romanticism of like living hand to mouth in Berlin was a bit kind of shut away to like starting a rocket ship in San Francisco, why did I get on this tangent again?
What's that?
I felt like I lost. I may need to get back to your question there.
No, it's fine. You're going in the right direction, because I suppose what I'm saying is you've the challenges that you've overcome. Essentially, it sounds to me you're the kind of person who plans what they're going to do. Yes. You're very strategic in what you're going to do before you actually take a jump. You're more of very pragmatic, and you are very calculated in what you're going to do next. So you've gone from being a freelancer to then going to, like you said, the roller coaster of Y Combinator starting Safety Wing. Yeah. What was that roller coaster? Tell us about that roller coaster, because when I picture a roller coaster, I think scary, exciting, scary, exciting.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly what it is. And starting a startup, especially one that has speed, because before you launch and before you kind of start to get speed, you can be in this sort of dream. There is this old sort of Aboriginal creation myth, which is sort of like the dream, where there's like the gods are dreaming up this world, and you live in this world, and then you enter into reality, and what you enter into are constraints.
Yes.
And then the dream, but it's shaped a lot by the dream world, and I just found like that's such a good metaphor for what it's like pre-launch, because you're in this. You're not in constrained by reality pre-launch, right? You're in this very pleasant dream world, and it's an important time, and by all means cherish it, but you can't stay there forever because then it becomes a delusion. But so, and then you enter into the real world with your idea, and then you're supposed to kind of like work with reality and overcome reality to create this, get to a place, get to a vision. And on the way there, what you have is like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I had a couple of things I did really right in the beginning, which I'm almost lost at, which is so sad. But like I essentially had very high speed, which it was very good because I did everything wrong before I did it right.
Wow.
So, but if you do things fast enough, if you try them fast enough, and I do think that is sort of the kind of exercise of entrepreneurship, isn't doing it right the first time, but it is to do it again, try new things so fast that it looks like you did it on purpose, because by the normal time someone tries one thing, you try 20 and one of them worked. And so anyway, that's part of it. And then of course it's like you launch, customers, you're constantly looking doom in the eye. Your product almost always suck. This is not true for the beginning of Safe Doing. That's the only kind of difference. I did a lot right in Safe Doing because I took what worked from my first company, and I applied it. And maybe most of all, I knew what didn't matter. So I didn't spend time on that. That was incredibly useful the second time around, just to not waste my time on things that what matters is like the team, the product. In the beginning, that's what matters. Is it a product people want to buy? Is the team great? And then later growth once you're live and kind of out of the beta phase. But of course, it's what's particularly wrenching is like when your product is not good, when you're not reaching when you're not growing. What's you happy when you're growing? Fundraising. What's not happy when you're rejected? What makes you happy when you're accepted? Fundraising is particularly harrowing, I think. I mean, I've done it many times now. But it definitely feels like a very high, it's like dating, I suppose. Like it's very high stakes salesmanship, sort of like, yes. So what is that roller coaster like? Yeah, it's like those things. It's you're on your own. You're in the wild. You don't know what's going to work. You don't know your environment. You have to figure it out by trying things.
Yes.
And most of the time it doesn't work, and you have to just not be deterred by that rejection, whether it's from customers or investors or like reality itself. But I do think it makes you into an interesting person over time.
No, I can imagine.
Yeah,
I can imagine, and I think what it looked. I mean, obviously now you started Safety Wing back in 2017, so you're getting some stability there. I'm guessing now, and that roller coaster ride is a bit smoother. And am I right in saying that, or is it still? I mean,
yeah. Well, you certainly have like more of what works, but you always have problems.
And
the problems in a startup are usually deadly, right? So there are periods of Safe Doing where things have just worked remarkably well, and that is actually true not long after we launched. We had this lovely scenario that we launched Nomad Insurance, and it just worked out of the gate. Like we had word of mouth, which I think is kind of like the true mark of product market fit, out of the gate. Like we were just a couple of months in, and we were observing just like every day customers were signing up. They were coming from nowhere, which is sort of word of mouth. And so that's because we were in a bit ahead of the game there. That allowed us to, in a way, not be as stressed out. So that was one very fortunate thing. Yeah.
And from there, then, so you've gone out of the gate and you've done pretty well with Nomad Insurance. You've added now different branches to Safety Wing. You've got the Nomad Insurance. You've got remote health for teams as well. So you're putting other things out there. Tell us about. Tell us then. I mean, if I'm a manager, and why are these things? I suppose I guess important to me now. I guess.
Right. Well, you are a manager, and let's say you have a remote team, and like many remote teams, at least some of your team, and quite often a large share, is international because you found them on international job sites, and you hired the best, and you weren't too concerned with whether or not they were locally located to you. That's what almost all companies that go remote, they kind of inevitably go down this route. Barring limits on time zones, there isn't that much difference from working with someone if they're sitting like in, I don't know, for in your case, like Newcastle or Brussels or Romania.
Yes.
So you end up becoming this international employer, and as an employer, you have salaries, but you also want to have benefits. That's to a varying degree, I should say. In England, that's less. It's less important. The NHS is like a very well-developed thing, but even in England, I have seen the stats quite a lot, especially in sort of like knowledge work.
Yes.
It is kind of common to also have benefits on top of that, like as an extra perk. That's getting increasingly common. So that's just one of the problems you have. And once you pass a certain number of employees, maybe like 10, 20, you start to feel the need that like, you want to be a proper employer. Like you don't care about that when you're like 3 people and like the founders and a couple of freelancers. But, as you get more, you kind of, you feel like you should. You want to be a serious employer, and not least, you want to be seen as a good,
a serious company.
Serious company that takes care of your employees, and of course, it's a little bit extra to say in the job ad, like, what are the benefits? You want the answer to be yes, there are benefits in this role, and it probably also increases retention a little bit. There are some data, although I'm not sure how much people kind of emotionally care about that, but there is certainly some data to support that.
I would agree on that. There's definitely, because I mean, I think even from an anecdotal experience, my time in hiring, one of the first questions I always get asked, apart from how much is the salary, is what's the remuneration package, what are the benefits.
Yeah,
but like you said, there is data to support it as well. So I think. Sorry, I interrupted you. You were saying Safety Wing offers that in there as well.
Yeah, and so that's your problem. You want to have benefits. Well, how do you do it? And Safety Wing is the answer to that, and it's for now the only answer if you have this kind of a team. So you can go to Safety Wing. You can add your employees or contractors. And very often they're contractors, even though they're actually employees when you work remotely because of the legal hurdles with having a local entity in that. And you can add them anywhere in the world, and they can also move anywhere in the world. And you can add sort of health, dental, maternity benefits to them. When you add more people, you can kind of like in the dashboard plus and add them more and remove when they're gone, and offer sort of like a high quality but very competitively priced everything available in the dashboard. You sign up sort of in 5 minutes kind of situation. So it's like a way to solve that problem, how to offer good benefits to my team in the simplest possible way, and the only way for now for these remote teams.
And what kind of benefits are you seeing now that are typically offered, or what do you typically offer yourself?
So the most common is health insurance, and then almost all the companies we have added actually also add the dental, and then it's like 30-40% add maternity, and what we call outpatient, which is like physical therapy and other such things. We don't yet have retirement. That's coming next summer. We have to make this product from scratch because they don't exist. So We don't have retirement. That's coming next summer. It's a similar kind of share, 30 to 40%. Other potential ones are disability, life. There are also other benefits I should add. So now I'm talking about the heavy lifting of benefits.
Yes.
Health insurance is by far the most. There are also other benefits that people think about as benefits. Vacation being the most prominent, that people care about the most. Like when you see rankings, like what do people care about the most? Health insurance is typically number one, and vacation is typically number two. Other benefits that are somewhat common and very often comes up in an onboarding process is laptop.
Yes.
And then of course there are those like fairly low cost but fun benefits, which is also quite common, where it's like it's a small amount but it can be useful. That could be like gym trip, or for remote work you can have like a remote work stipend for co-working space. That's more expensive actually, but you see some of those. But in terms of like generally what do people think about, what do people actually care about, is health insurance and vacation. And then for a lot of people it's also the other insurances, life, disability, dental is actually very common, and retirement savings.
And talking about health insurance, and given the situation that we're in, we can't really escape it, can we? Talking about it, have you seen any changes? I mean, what do things look like before and after? Are there any changes that have happened with Safety Wing in terms of the uptake of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we saw with remote health a bit of an explosion in interest because of COVID. And I don't know the percentage, but like a significant share of the companies reaching out to us have gone remote since March. There are different numbers on it. Between 5 to 10x seem to be the expected increase in the people who work remotely before COVID and after COVID. Remote work and remote teams, there seems to be an explosion. In cities like San Francisco, it's even more. I don't know what the numbers are, but it seems like every company has gone remote permanently, or remote first, or remote like for a couple of years, which very often will turn into permanently here. So that's I would say the biggest driver. Then of course we have the nomads, which was for us the first product, which are, by the way, remote workers is a subset of remote workers. But they buy the products individuals. There we saw actually a drop of February to March down, like for us, like 20 to 30% down. There were a lot of them we evacuated ourselves actually, because we covered that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then, but we got through that quite well, and we fared much better than other people who are in the. So nomad insurance isn't strictly travel insurance, but it's adjacent to travel insurance. So the difference is, there are some differences, but it's more of a medical plan, and you can have it forever. That's the biggest difference. So travel insurance, you have it for like 45 days, but nomad insurance is like a subscription that's like $37 a month, and you can have it like for 10 years or forever. So a section of nomads went home. But starting in July, that started ticking up, and actually, in last quarter, we had like an 83% growth in that product, and that continues. So nomads is this weird thing that has happened. We had many of these like weird predictions about remote work and nomadism when we started out. One of them was that one of the secondary effects of remote work is that countries and cities would start competing for nomads, remote workers, and remote companies, because right?
It's happening.
And we wrote, and that's happened so exactly like we were predicting that it's almost scary. So Sarah, my co-founder, did a talk on Web Summit where she explained exactly how this would be, and it's completely played out to the wildest extent. Like there are now, I think it's 8-9 countries where you can't travel from the US as a tourist, but you can go there as a remote worker or nomad. They've made these nomad visas situations. And now you had Greece, which took it one level up, where they said if a remote worker were to move to Greece, they would have 50% tax break for 7 years, I think. So they like adding it to the next level.
7 years. Wow.
Yeah. So that's really happening. And so I do think that, so we're seeing a resurgence of nomadism. Another reason we're seeing is because all these companies have gone remote. And what I saw here in San Francisco is, yeah, they got suddenly their job was remote. They didn't do something for a few months, but then they started asking themselves, wait, I work remotely. I don't have to live here. I'm paying an obscene amount for rent, and I don't like it that much. I'm only living here because my job is here.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them went on road trips. Some of them went to another state, but a lot of them went kind of nomad. They went to Tulum, or they went to Lisbon, or Barbados, and kind of switched to a nomad lifestyle. So we're seeing that resurgence starting from August, and I would expect sort of as travel resumes and the sort of vaccine becomes more widespread, that's only going to accelerate. So next year is going to be the year of the nomad for sure.
And I think places, something like Barbados, so I saw that they're offering, and other countries as well are offering certain benefits, and they're trying to, I suppose, reel nomads and remote workers in with, I suppose, work here for a year and we'll give you this, or work here for 6 months and we'll do that for you. So that's on the rise as well, isn't it? It's basically what you're saying.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Barbados was one of those that really went for it. They made this remote work visa, which is super easy to get. And they've sort of put in place like the whole range of public services to make it as attractive as possible. And I know several people. There are a couple of people, even a person, Chris, on the Safety Wing team, which took that offer and is currently living in Barbados. So I'm guessing they're starting to get a little nomad community going there as well.
Well, given the weather in London, I could see myself doing the same thing myself. So watch this space. No, it's good. I mean, one of the questions I get asked quite a lot, which you're kind of alluding to, and it seems like you've got your finger on the pulse in terms of what's going to happen in the future. Are there any other sort of like predictions that you've either kind of foreseen, or any predictions that you kind of know about? Sorry, let me start again. So either predictions that you've foreseen that have come true, or predictions that haven't yet sort of played out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, the primary one is the safety wing hypothesis, because we say we're building a global social safety net, and we are, but our secret mission, which is not that secret, but is that we see that as a platform for building the first country on the internet. And I do think that the inevitable logic of the thing, the internet, and if you think it through, goes in that direction, that these sort of social structures will exist in a way that's practical, and that what will inevitably happen in the future is that there will be made these essentially countries on the internet. And I think it's the most important thing to think about now, because even though the technological driver is inevitable, how it's made, it can take many different forms. The future country on the internet is coming. Is it a dystopia or a utopia? I would say time will tell, but it certainly is coming. And of course, that raises many questions. What do you mean by country, and what will the relationship be to other countries and this sort of new type of social entity? And that also remains to be seen. Although we have a strategy at Safety Wing which is very friendly. We try to kind of do the good things about everything, and have a very sort of positive relationship with existing countries. They won't play the same role. So I do think geographical countries will continue to exist. They just will have less significance.
Mm-hmm.
It's similar to when we went from city-states to nation-states, right? The city-states still exist. It's just less important. They just do the things that are strictly relevant to the city, right? I think that's a sort of similar feel it will have. They will still exist, just be more less significant. And so that's a prediction.
It's fascinating. I think we could probably do a whole other podcast on this. So I might have to invite you back on another time because this is fascinating to me, and I love to talk about the future of. I love to get different perspectives on what's going to happen in the future. So a country on the internet sounds
Yeah,
sounds good to me.
yeah, absolutely. On remote work, our predictions are come true. A lot of them, but they seemed outrageous when we made them. So I mentioned that about cities and countries competing. I certainly also think it is inevitable that every company that can be remote will be remote. There are economic drivers to it, which makes it an inevitable outcome. And similarly, every company that can be digital will be digital and will be global. That's another one that I think a lot of people haven't picked up on, which creates this completely different market. This is already the case. I'm not sure why so many people is in a way blind to this, but everything that's sold on the internet is global, which means your market is global, and it's a different market. It's very big. Everything has this infinite potential, and many niches are huge on a global basis that are insignificant on a small base, on a local scale. So that's another one that is sort of startup related, that is in a way is already come true, but people doesn't seem to have realized it yet.
Yeah,
What possibilities this offer?
and my suspicion is that people who, I suppose it's more, it's one of those predictions, I guess, that if you're working digitally and you've got your finger on the pulse of what's going on, like somebody like yourself, you're working remotely as well, you're more likely to be able to be more, I guess, more sensitive to those changes and those transformations than if you're somebody who maybe is not necessarily geared towards that, but yeah, like I said, I think there's another podcast in there somewhere. So
yeah, let's return to that.
Let's return to it. But no, so before we go, Sondre, what's on the horizon for you? I know you said there were some different product areas that you were thinking about adding to Safety Wing, but what's the future for Safety Wing in general?
Yeah. So our near-term future, our coming year, we're exciting year ahead. We have but the big product launch is probably the pension retirement product, just the first of its kind. It's the first global portable retirement product, that allow people who live in different countries to keep saving for the same pension account, which is actually not possible today. So you have a lot of people who have like me, who have pension savings in Norway. I can't access them here. It's like a separate, I don't know, many people have that problem who have moved, that don't have to be nomads. They've just moved internationally sometime in their life. So that's going to be the big one. We also have, of course, a lot of improvement for remote health. Remote health is a big product, and we have, a lot of exciting product improvements coming out. So just working on, there's also this window of opportunity with remote health. I think we made this product at this incredibly fortuitous time, and we have to sort of take that window of opportunity to make sure that people know about it, that people know that it's possible, because not a big reason I think a lot of people don't have benefits today when they work internationally remote is just because the companies don't think it's possible. We know that because we hear it from the companies who come to us. They're like, "Oh, that's so fun that it's now possible," and then they're implementing benefits, and that's of course a great help for these people's lives. So that's that, and then we will continue on to add the other insurances and the income protection, and then we're going to make a membership product, sort of a couple of years ahead, where we where you bundle all these products into like a membership the way you would have nationally in a social safety net. So you get all of it, and maybe you pay a share, like 10% of your incomes, so it becomes available for even more people. to have access to a very high quality social safety net that works globally. That's where we want to get to.
Well, for sure, I'll be looking out and talking about Safety Wing because I really believe in what you do, Sondre, and I think it's really important, not just because of the situation that we're in now, but generally speaking, it's something that is overlooked and it's something unique that you do. So I'll be keeping close with you and Enlin and keeping track on what you do, and I will obviously be talking about Safety Wing with the community too. But what I want to do is just wish you all the best and thank you so much for taking time today to speak to us on the podcast. And yeah, wish you and the team all the best.
Thank you, Alex. It was great to chat with you, and super nice to meet you. And I think this community sounds exciting. I look forward to checking it out and seeing how it develops as well.
Excellent. Well, I'll be speaking to you soon. Thanks, Sondre.